I give it a 1% chance. I almost gave it a milk chance, which is 2%, but I'm going to go even lower than that, Skip. I think it's a 1% chance, and I think it's very highly unlikely that they're able to do this. But just for the sake of argument, if they were able to pull this off, I think that vaults them to the top of the list of the leaderboard as being the favorite to win the championship. I give them a 35% chance of winning it. Now,
well, how did they acquire him? For what?
Well, Russ, somebody out there want Russ, Skip.
Not the Nets. Maybe somebody, but not the Nets.
Well, maybe we can.
Let's see. If I'm Joe Tsai, the owner, I say, let me replace Kyrie with Russell Westbrook.
No. That's part of the problem is that Kyrie understands that I believe Kyrie is in an advantageous situation because the team's best player happens to be Kyrie's best friend. KD did not sign up to come to Brooklyn, and all of a sudden, there's no Kyrie. They had James Harden. There's no James Harden. He did not come to play with Ben Simmons and a bunch of role players. That's not why he came to Brooklyn. He left Golden State believing, striking out on his own, Skip, that I can win a championship as the lead dog on a good team with another great player.
Remember Kyrie at the All-Star game? Two max.
We got two max. Right. Okay. So now all of a sudden there's no James Harden, there's no Kyrie, there's Kevin Durant and Ben Simmons and some role players.
And all of a sudden they're saying to Kyrie, no max.
No max.
Right?
Well, Skip, they said we're willing to give you a max, but just not max years.
Right.
Maybe we're willing to do 3 years, but we can't go to the full max, which is 5 years. And
$50 million.
Kyrie like, nah, bro, I need all that.
Yeah.
So is there another team out there, Skip? I believe there is a team. I don't know if the Lakers can get to that. But, Skip, this is something that they have to entertain. The Lakers are about superstars. The Lakers are about winning. I believe this will be a better fit. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, one of the big three, if Kyrie were to go to the Lakers, is out. I believe that's a better fit than with Russ being there with one of the other big three out. Obviously, LeBron and Kyrie, they played together for 3 years. They know each other. LeBron would be the perfect facilitator. Kyrie can do what Kyrie does, which is score the basketball, and he can score it and he can produce that in abundance. Anthony Davis, I'm saying this, hoping and thinking and praying that he stays healthy. He can give you 26. Now, LeBron, everybody keeps talking about lightening the load on LeBron James. This would definitely lighten the scoring load on LeBron James because you got two guys that could potentially give you 25 points. LeBron gives you his 25. Hey, you're good. He doesn't have to play those Herculean 37 at 38 years of age, which he's going to be this year, Skip. He should not have to play 37, 38, 40 minutes on a Tuesday night in Orlando or Wednesday night in Houston. That shouldn't be the case. But, Skip, I don't know if they – I just like you – and I agree with you. I don't know what assets they have. But, hey, since we're dreaming out here, I mean, that's the part of dreaming. I can dream that they can get Kyrie somehow. I still believe Kyrie is a phenomenal player. I understand what comes along with Kyrie. I think all the other teams, NBA teams, understand what comes along with Kyrie. But, Skip, they're going to be somebody that's going to be willing to accept the responsibility and knowing that basketball is not the most important thing. You just hope it's important enough that he, during the season, says, you know what, I don't need any unexcused absences, and I'm going to be ready to play basketball for the better part of 5-6 months. If they can do that, Skip, but I mean, like I said, Kyrie, LeBron, and AD, I think that vaults them to the top of the leaderboard. Obviously, it's going to take some time to take some continuity. But Kyrie can play with the ball without the ball because that's why he thrived when James Harden got there. He's a natural, too. He loves not having to facilitate. LeBron James goes right back, probably going to lead the league in assists with Kyrie and AD. So I think it would be great. I give it a 1% chance of happening. 35% of them winning the title if it were to happen. But, Skip, I laid in my bed last night thinking, how in the hell can they pull this off without having to give up LeBron or AD?
Well, and yes,
Skip,
I'm waiting.
Okay, what did we gave you? Russ, Tucker?
They're not going to do this. We're talking about Kyrie Irving, and we're talking about the team that just before last season came into last season
as the favorite,
as the overall favorite.
Man, let me dream.
Nets.
You trying to wake me up on my dream. You shaking me. Let me dream. Damn.
I'm fearing that for the second straight day, you got into your Snoop stash that you keep in your dressing room because This is fantasy land. This is pie in the sky. I don't really know what pie in the sky means, like literally. What is pie in the sky? I don't even eat pie. But I know figuratively it means fantasy land.
Yes.
It means it ain't happening. Okay, so let's start with these Brooklyn Nets, shall we?
Yes.
Aren't they stuck with Kyrie? Don't they have to figure out how to keep Kyrie? Aren't they going to get pushed up against the wall by Kyrie and agent to the point that they have no choice, no other chance but to give him what he asked for, which is the 5-year, $250 million max? How can they afford not to have Kyrie Irving?
I believe, Skip, the most important, the central figure in all this is Kevin Durant. What does Kevin Durant, Skip, because Skip.
Well, I'm getting to that.
Okay.
Because how can you let Kyrie walk? Because the downside of this, your alternative is you just say, okay, opt out and we'll see you later. And I think there's
No, you got to get something
okay,
for him.
well, obviously, but it's also obvious to me that all the way up to the top, to the owner, to the GM, to the fairly new head coach, they were so down on Kyrie.
Yeah.
And by the way, what has happened to Kyrie? He was with LeBron. They won a championship, and then it just completely flamed out thanks to him, not to the other guy, thanks to him, right?
Yes.
And then he goes to Boston because I want out. I want my own show. I want to run my own show. And what happened? It was the all-time flame out, and you can't tell me that the Celtics weren't better this past season without Kyrie Irving.
Well, it was better when he was there, Skip. Remember, they went to the Game 7.
To Game 7 of the conference finals against that guy's team, right? Okay, so help me out here. What has he really done except refuse to get vaccinated, right? He refused, and it tore the heart out of this team. And his best friend, Kevin Durant, had to sit idly by and go along with management finally, just get him out of our sight. We don't want him around.
Right.
And so they dismissed him until they lost 12 straight games. And then they finally had to say, I guess we got to crawl back and ask him back. And they crawled back, and here we are. And they're still going to have to crawl for Kyrie because I don't see how you're going to go from the betting favorite to win it all to what? Because if he walks, let's just do the worst hypothetical.
Right.
What if he just says, I'm out. I opt out. I'm out of here. I'm an unrestricted free agent. I'm hitting the open market. Well, where does that leave his best friend?
Right.
With an iffy Ben Simmons coming off major back surgery.
And role players.
Yeah, and role
You're not
players.
winning championship with that.
Well, what are you doing? Are you doing anything at all? Because all of a sudden, I would think that my guy, Kevin Durant, would then say, hey, get me out of here, right?
You
Wouldn't
can't
he
do that.
just raise unholy hell?
Skip, you can't do that. The owner paid a king's ransom for the Nets and Barclays. And it's all be contingent on having Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving competing for a championship. Kyrie leaves. I don't know why Kevin Durant wants to stay. And you look at some of the packages that people are throwing around. Skip, those guys, and Kevin Durant's not taking those guys to no NBA championship.
He doesn't want Russ back. He had enough of Russ.
Or the Knicks. You see what the Knicks, well, if he went to the, Kyrie goes to the Knicks, cross the bridge, then he gets, what? No, Alex Burke and Kemba Walker?
No.
Brooklyn Nets don't want that.
You don't want anything because Kyrie's value on the open market, to me, is all-time low. Unless you can get him for, quote-unquote, nothing just by paying him, where you don't have to give up assets to get him if he just becomes an unrestricted free agent, then you start asking the glass half full question because I can pick Kyrie to pieces right now because I just don't love what he's become because I think he doesn't prioritize winning basketball games in his life.
Well, he doesn't prioritize basketball. Forget winning basketball.
Well, I'm just
basketball.
saying, but if you're going to pay him, again, hypothetically, $250 million, if you're going to pay him an average of $50 million a year, it's to win basketball games. It's ultimately to win a championship. And if that's about fourth on his list of life priorities, well, good luck to you because, and I don't have any problem with him reprioritizing his life and saying my faith is more important or my charitable work or whatever he says is more important.
But it's kind of hard, Skip, when you play a team sport and they're paying you, as you mentioned, that kind of money. It's kind of hard not to prioritize that. Teams are going to be looking at you sideways, bro. You want 250 fully guaranteed, and you're saying winning basketball or basketball itself is third, fourth, fifth on your priority list?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he and Kevin have both fallen into this trap. We're artists, and we just appreciate, we have a love of just playing the game of basketball. Winning's not the priority. Winning is inconsequential. We just love to go out and play the game we were born to play.
Right.
Not good enough, not acceptable. Your owner, your GM, and your coach ultimately will not accept that. But that's what it's come to. They have a Kyrie problem right now because I think it's damned if you do and damned if you don't, because you're really damned if you don't, because you're going to lose the other guy. You're going to lose his best friend. At
least, but Skip, we got to get something. Now, I don't know if there's a championship contending team. You go to Boston and says, okay, Boston's not going to want him back. They don't want to break up their nucleus. They've already had this experiment, and it didn't work out. So where can we go, Skip, to offer something? Can we go to the Pelicans and says, okay, we'll give you Kyrie? I mean, seems like you guys, Zion's coming back. What if you give us McCollum, or you give us a B.I. or somebody like that, Skip? I mean, I got to get back comparable. What the packages that I'm seeing offered, that's not comparable for Kyrie, even though he might take a Friday off or he might take a Wednesday off. Yep. Looking at the players that they're trying to include in this, Skip, if I'm the Brooklyn Nets, y'all better get off my phone.
Agreed. Okay, so now let's flip it to the Lakers' dilemma.
Yes.
Ultimately, the dilemma is Russell Westbrook. It was LeBron co-signing, yes, go get him, let's do it. But you had to go get him for 2 years, two guaranteed years. So now you're entering the second year of your new Russ problem at $47 million. So the story has reared its ugly head again. Speculation now runs amok thanks to a report in The Ringer from Kevin O'Connor saying that it's real. The interest in Charlotte is real. Is it possible that the only human out there who might save the Lakers is one Michael Jeffrey Jordan, who has proven to be the single worst GM in the history of basketball? The greatest player ever has become the worst GM in basketball. And he is now trying to undo problems that he created for himself by having interest to the point of intrigue with taking on Russ's expiring contract of $47 million and giving you back Terry Rozier, whom I like, and Gordon Hayward, who I do not like.
The Lakers are not going to take that.
Okay.
But Skip, I think the thing is, this would be very, not for a host, obviously. Michael wants somebody that Russ is going to play hard. And the expectation in Charlotte is not the same as the expectation in La La Land. We know that, Skip. But why would you bring Russ on when you have a guy in Melo who needs the ball? One of the reasons you're wanting to get rid of Terry Rozier is because you want the ball in Melo's hands more often. Now, it's been proven that Russ is not nearly as effective with the ball, without the ball, as he is with the ball. Yep. So now we're going to bring him in with a young 21-year-old who we believe is our cornerstone franchise player, and we're going to take the ball out of his hand and put it in. Skip, the Lakers, what did the Lakers do? They moved Norm Nixon because we wanted the ball in Magic Johnson's hands all the time. Norm Nixon was a very good player. Norm Nixon was a better player than Terry Rozier is. Trust me. And I understand that Magic is a better player than Melo. But I'm just saying, when you have a guy of that caliber, you want the ball in his hands.
Yep.
So why would I bring Russ in? Why would I bring Russ into that situation with this young man?
Only because you would write off next year, because you'd say, I've got a $47 million expiring contract, and I'll just muddle through, and I won't even care about the results of next year, because after next year, I'm going to have to figure out how to pay LaMelo, and I'm going to for sure have to pay Miles Bridges, who wants a max deal. Both of them will want max deals. I don't know if Miles Bridges is worth a max. You're going to have to figure that one out. But the thought there is that next year you're going to owe a combined $54.7 million for the two mistakes. Terry Rozier was not a mistake. I still like him.
I do. I like
Gordon Hayward, I first guessed this sitting right here in this chair. I said, Michael, no. I've never liked him. I go back to the Butler days. I'm sorry. I just don't see it. He's not a star. He's not even close to being. We're not talking about superstar. I'm not even going to give him star.
No, he was a good player. He's a very good player. He had that 1 year in Utah, Skip. I think he made the All-Star team.
And that's how he got his money. Okay, but he's not good enough. He's not worth $31.5 million that you owe him next year. So Michael's trying to get out from under that deal, and if he throws in Rozier, who's just sort of an irritant for LaMelo right now because they kind of do the same thing. So if you clear the decks and you bring in Russ and just basically tell Russ, just play it out, man. Just kind of try to stay out of the way because we have no future here together. We just want your expiring $47 million so that we can get out from under those two players who make a ton of money and clear the decks for the next era, which would belong to Miles Bridges, but obviously to LaMelo.
Right.
Then you could give them, if you have to, you could give them both a max. Okay, that's the only way out I see for your Lakers. Forget about Kyrie because it is pie in sky.
No, we're not going to forget about that. Stop saying forget about that.
Pie in sky. You love pie. Go ahead and eat your pie in the sky.
Stranger things have happened. I think deep down inside, you're like, well, what if there is an outside possibility that the Lakers, Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka
before
can
you
put this
do
off?
anything, you have to get out from under Russell Westbrook. You have to.
Well, do that.
It's too much because you can't just snap your finger. Let's say Kyrie hits the open market. Let's just do, which is not going to happen, but I'm going to give you your Fantasyland hypothetical. If he suddenly became unrestricted free,
well, he's going to the highest bidder. I mean, so now you're looking at somebody like an Orlando. You're looking at a team that would definitely give him a max contract.
You have how much cap space, LA Lakers?
We ain't got none.
You got none because of $47 million owed to Russell Westbrook, right?
Yes.
And all he did last year was lead the league in turnovers for most of the year until the last stretch when he didn't play the last 3 games.
Right.
All he did was become the worst three-point shooter in all of basketball. All he did last year was to become the 4th worst free throw shooter in all of basketball. He was horrendous in every category that mattered for a quote-unquote starting point guard. As a starter, he became the worst starting player in all of basketball to me. And unfortunately, you were stuck with him.
We are. And Skip, I understand about Kyrie, and I think Kyrie could the Lakers, because Kyrie is not. See, Skip, I look at a superstar as a guy being the best player on a team that can win a championship. I don't believe Kyrie can be the best player on the team to lead a team to a championship.
I agree.
He's been given opportunities. He had that opportunity in Boston. He had that opportunity in Brooklyn. And he did not play he failed miserably. But I do believe if you got a superstar, a LeBron or KD or someone of that equivalency, yeah, Kyrie can be a great number 2. We saw what he did in Cleveland. But as the best player, I don't look at Kyrie as a superstar. I'm sorry, I don't. I think he's a very talented player. I think he's a star player. But superstar, being the best player on a team that wins a championship, I don't see Kyrie in that because a lot of that has to do with leadership skills. I just don't believe, Skip, and I get it. Sometimes you're going to have bad days, but I don't believe you can be that kind of a mercurial personality. You look at the guys that are leaders and that have won in that league. They're the exact same every single day. It's not a situation where I'm speaking to you on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm in my mood, I ain't got nothing for you. Friday, Saturday, we straight. Sunday, hey, what's up? And no. You got to be same if you're going to leave me in. They're going to be like, bro, what guy are we getting today?
Okay, I'm going to give you one point that you have made. I do believe if we can go pie in sky, if I'm going to give you Fantasyland and somehow your Lakers acquire Kyrie Irving and keep Anthony Davis instead of would the Nets consider a straight up deal for Anthony?
Hell
straight
yeah.
up for Kyrie? Yes, they would. But I don't think you want to do that.
No,
because I think you would get worse that way.
Yeah.
Because Anthony is better at his worst than Kyrie is at his best, in part because Anthony is still 6 feet 10 inches tall.
Right.
On any given night, he can go to Philadelphia and outplay Joel Embiid, and Kyrie, obviously, at 6'2", can't do that.
Well, he's going to give you, Max, he's going to give you great production on the other end.
Okay.
I'm not counting on really Kyrie to give me anything defensively.
Okay, but I'm going to give you this one point. I believe that Kyrie has somewhat, quote-unquote, grown up when it comes to this guy over here.
Right.
Because they have buried the proverbial hatchet that Kyrie actually buried in LeBron's back when he was walking out the door in Cleveland, right?
Yes.
Because it was his doing to undo him and LeBron.
Yes.
He's been quoted numerous times. I've seen the light. We had it better than I thought. I've matured, blah, blah, blah. You've heard this, but I think it's from his heart.
Yes.
And he does have a big heart. Sometimes it goes the wrong directions into conspiracy theories, but right now, I think he would love a second chance in life with LeBron James.
Right.
So I think that dynamic duo would work better this time than it worked the first time, except that they're both 5, 7 years old, whatever you want to say. Right?
Exactly, Skip. When you're going and when you're doing things, you take it for granted. When you're in New England and you're playing with Tom Brady in their prime, you go into Super Bowl, you think that's normal. And then all of a sudden you go somewhere else, Skip, and that's not normal. I think the thing is that Kyrie, Skip, and it all happens. When we're growing up and our parents or grandparents are trying to tell us something, man, ain't nobody listening. Oh, yeah. And then down the road, Skip, you're like, damn, they knew exactly what they was talking about. They were trying to save me from myself.
Him to him. I agree. So if you could get him, way to go. But you're not going to get him.
And you would come in, you'd be like Kyrie. Some days you come to work, some days you wouldn't, because I would be inseparable. We might win 74 games. We might win 74 games.
I'm going to knock on wood over here. When have I ever missed a day of work?
If we got Kyrie, ain't no way you come in here and face me every day during basketball season.
I would, because he would figure out a way to blow it up.
you hope it.
I know.
See, now, I ain't never seen nobody hope that something bad go wrong.
He would. He always has.
You two are worked up over it. Awesome start to the morning. Kyrie doesn't appear to be too worried about it, though, guys. He's posting on his IG all about peace the last day or two.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.